Oh, hey, nasties, here's Beatrice. Now, before you listen to today's episode, we wanted to recommend another awesome podcast to you. It's called Acts of Pod, and it's a hilarious, feminist, political, historical podcast. I just listened to the episode that they did after Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed as Supreme Court Justice, and it's an episode about women's movements and women's protests that were actually successful. And you know what? That was exactly what I needed in this current political climate. So we think that you might like Acts of Pod, and we'll include a trailer right after that. So give it a listen, not just a trailer, also the podcast, and then please stay tuned for a very special Halloween episode of She Who Persisted. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, we're Acts of Pod. I'm Gina.
I'm Anne.
And we are a comedy, history, political science podcast. And every week we pick a story out of the news that's gotten a lot of attention, and we try to provide a historical context for it. Anne over here actually has an advanced degree in history.
I do, but I also like to laugh, and that's what gets me through life.
It's just a couple of lifelong friends having a chuckle. We lean a bit leftward. We're definitely feminists, and we're just trying to organize a revolution to overthrow the patriarchy and white supremacy. It's no big deal. If you want in, the revolution may not be televised, but it will be potted. So give her a listen. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We'll appreciate it. Axopod, we are on iTunes and on Libsyn. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
She was warned. She was given an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted.
Hello and welcome to The Persistence. This is She Who Persisted, the Nasty Podcast. My name is Beatrice and I'm here with
Elizabeth, as always. So this week we're talking a little bit about Halloween.
Yeah.
And what's going on in the world around Halloween and how to have a feminist Halloween and a safe Halloween and in the kind of metoo world that we live in.
In the metoo world that we live in, that seemed to have culminated in very tragically the last few weeks. I recorded this short minisode about Brett Kavanaugh, and I think we all struggled recently.
I mean, that's fair. It's a difficult time in the United States, I would say. Mm-hmm. I think that she was very, very brave to come forward. Mm-hmm. I think that we have an imperfect system, mm-hmm. and, the elections are in less than a month.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's where we're at.
And actually, because most of the people that are not listening to this from Austria probably don't know this, but in Austria, actually, in the week after the Brett Kavanaugh thing happened. So, okay, I have to tell you a bit of backstory here, because one former Green MP in Austria called Sigrid Mauer, she got messages from a guy whose craft beer shop that she walks by every day when she goes to work. And as I said, she used to be a parliamentarian in Austria for the Green Party. And so she walked by his shop one day again, and then she received really disgusting messages that were basically cyber sexual assault, I think. So, and she posted them on Facebook and Twitter. And then, which was kind of a brave move, and a lot of people applauded her for that, I think, especially in feminist circles, because, of course, one of the reasons why she did that was that she didn't want men, or we don't want men who do these things to feel safe, right? Because that's...
Well, you don't want people who do these things to be safe. It doesn't
true.
even just have to be men.
That is very true. Thank you. Yeah. That's very true. So I think that's kind of a point of the whole Me Too thing, is that those things have been going on forever and now they're coming to light. And so, and also that creates kind of this atmosphere of finally people are kind of fighting back against this, and finally it has consequences, right? And so she was always also one of the people who posted things like that online. And then the guy who is the owner of this craft beer shop sued her for, I don't know what the English word is, but like Geschäftsschädigung and Ehrenbeleidigung or something like that.
Like defamation of character and like impacting his business.
Yeah. And, you know, he, in the week after the Kavanaugh thing happened in America, the judge actually basically confirmed that, and she was sentenced to a fine, right? Because of it.
Yeah, so the courts ruled that she did in fact harm his business, and that it was defamation of character, and so she had to pay a fine.
Exactly. So on the basis of him, on the basis that he said it wasn't actually him who wrote those messages, but it must have been someone who just got the chance and sat behind his computer and started typing those things. It was, of course, bullshit. And the judge even said that he didn't believe it, but she couldn't definitely prove that it was him. And so, since innocent until proven guilty, she was the one who got, like, who's the guilty party, quote unquote, here. But yes. There's going to be like a second, what's it called? Berufung. So she's
appealed the decision?
Yes. So she's appealing the decision. So there's going to be a second trial. And of course, everybody hopes that it will have better results. So for me personally, there were two important things happening within a week that kind of sent the message to me that those stories don't matter, that, you know, victims were basically made into perpetrators in a sense in the media or in the public eye. But then one good thing happened in that case, at least, which is that she's, or not just her, but an organization and her together, they started a crowdfunding campaign. And so to cover for the possible expenses of the trial for her, and also for other people who are going through the same thing, because of course, what people now want is a change of law in Austria, so that people can actually do something against, you know, sexual assault online, so to say, or you know, or cyberbullying. And so what happened was that the crowdfunding project, so they fulfilled the goal within 2 days, right? Which is amazing. And what is also cool is that two-thirds of the people who donated money were actually men, which is also cool. So on the one hand, there were those two things happening that really devastated me, and I think a lot of people. And then on the other hand, I also have the feeling that we're moving in the right direction nonetheless, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we'll see in the United States, I think we'll see what happens at the midterm elections. We're going to be doing a special podcast with the folks from the ladies from Hellbent. A two kind of part crossover podcast episodes where we talk on their podcast and on our podcast about the implications of the results of the election, as well as kind of the international response to it, which is kind of where Beatrice comes in, as we're like tokenizing her as our one international person.
Because everything that's not in the US is international.
Absolutely. Everything. And Beatrice can be representative of all of that.
I'm representing all the people on the planet
that are not
except
in
the
America.
people that live in the US. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah,
I think I'm a good representative.
We'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are hopeful, given the number of women who are running for office, given the number of people who are speaking out and are feeling able to speak out about sexual assault, whether it's online sexual harassment or sexual assault that has happened recently, long in the past. So we'll see what happens. But I agree. I'm heartened by the fact that people are willing to step up and that people are believing them, even if the outcomes of the, you know, public trials and the trials of public opinion aren't necessarily what we would want them to be.
And why are we telling you this? In the beginning, Liz said we want to do an episode on Halloween. Why are we talking about sexual assault now? When Liz told me that she wanted to do something on Halloween, I was like, I don't get it. Why?
And I said, because you're not in America and you don't celebrate Halloween.
Yeah. And she said, you don't get how much Halloween is connected to rape culture in the US. And that's why we started this episode talking about the most recent events surrounding sexual assault and surrounding the metoo movement, because I think we're in a very special moment in history right now concerning rape culture and how it's changing, because I think norms are shifting very rapidly right now. And so what does Halloween have to do with rape culture?
Great question, Beatrice. One of the things that it's not just about rape culture, but kind of how to have a feminist Halloween. You know, there are a lot of things that we'll kind of talk about in this episode that may seem like we shouldn't have to do them, that things that we shouldn't feel like we have to pay attention to. But the fact is, even though it sucks that we have to pay attention to these things, it's the world that we live in. And the more that we can be aware of our surroundings, aware of what's going on, that we can push back against rape culture, the better time you're going to have on Halloween. You know, last year when we talked about Halloween, we talked about some of the crazy costumes that exist out there, like a sexy banana, a sexy, I don't know, whatever. Put sexy
mustard was one of those.
Oh yes, sexy mustard, etc. So one of the places where Halloween is celebrated in particular among, you know, young women, young college age women, is in college, where there are lots of parties, there's lots of binge drinking, there are lots of opportunities for terrible things to happen.
So since I'm the international ambassador on this podcast, as we already established in the beginning,
yes,
I think one thing that we need to explain in the beginning for everyone who's listening to this, not in America, or at least, I mean, I can only speak for like the culture that I'm in right now, which is Austria. For us, Halloween, like when I was a child, it wasn't celebrated at all, right? It wasn't a thing. It just came back to Europe via America in the last few years. And how it's usually celebrated here, as far as I know, as far as I can witness it, is usually people getting together and watching horror films, or they go to parties, but usually it's not. I think there's a difference to America, because in America, Halloween seems to be connected to the idea of getting dressed up in a sexy way, right? And I don't see that as much here.
Yes.
I think that's going to change because, you know, knowing how things develop, usually, you know, those trends are kind of taken over from America, and then we do that here too, right? But at the moment, it's more like a scary thing, right? We get dressed up as vampires and witches maybe.
I mean, to be honest, there's nothing scarier than rape culture.
That's very true. That is very true. So, and then one thing that I also wanted to say was that the sexy part of Halloween that seems to be entrenched in like the American version of Halloween is usually not just sexy, but very sexist and also problematic in many other respects, right?
Yes. Well, it can be.
And
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it can be. Like today I was looking at this one article from Newsweek that's how not to be a sexist jerk for Halloween. And the video that it had with it, there was a woman who was dressed as a sexy Border Patrol agent. So let's break this apart right now. Yes. So let's break this apart. Like on a sexist on a sexual level, you know, she's got handcuffs. There's a little bit of BDSM there. There's a little bit of like sexiness. I get that. Okay. But let's take a step back. Right now in the United States, we have a massive problem with immigration policy that it needs to be reformed. We have children being separated from their parents and put in, you know, I don't want to say camps, but like detainment centers. Let's call them detainment centers. And so to have a woman dressed up as a Border Patrol agent is number one, like really problematic from that perspective. But then a sexy Border Patrol agent, like that's just like, why? Like, do you not understand anything about what's going on in the world right now in the United States? Like anywhere? Like that's just No. And then if you're going out with a group of people, who are the other people that you're dressed up with going out in? Are they going to dress up as small children that are being put in cages in
oh, Jesus Christ,
in these detainment centers? Like it's just